Okay, I don't think I'm doing that, right? I'm not doing that as an emote, right? Oh my goodness, but I get the idea.
So you can do all sorts of really, really fun stuff.
Oh, she got a transformation now.
And this one also has its own talking animation as well.
Okay, YouTube is back up.
And it's really fast to switch models as well. So we're gonna switch over here to one that I made.
Oh shit, she's got a Warhammer one.
Playing Warhammer Darktide with my friends, and again, that's like the coolest thing about this is that you can.
I was gonna say this actually is a really cool thing because then again, custom, especially if your character is a shapeshifter. You know, the example here, right? Then yeah, that would actually be really useful. Granted, I need to get like 3 different versions of the design. One the very small, one the more normal proportion, and then the other one like the more Gleeman style cosmic proportion one, right? So, but yeah, it's pretty obvious why. Again, this would. As much as people want to pretend like they hate AI, a lot of these people are grifting. They don't really care. But even the people who hate AI are going to definitely have to be able to concede begrudgingly that the ability to have custom, you know, avatars for particular games is going to actually be something that's going to be really fucking useful. And you're not going to have to spend $10,000 fucking dollars every time you need a new avatar, right?
Spin up models really, really fast. For if you are, you know, you're doing like a collab, or you're doing games with your friends, and you want to have like matching. You want to have matching models. Or you want to have matching, like avatars. You can do this as well. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with that. And also they're really cheap to make if you're to compare them to, you know, Live 2D model. For people that want a little bit more than a PNG, but then they're not really ready to make that leap to.
Yeah, the thing about the Live 2D model is that there's obviously 2 different metrics of cost analysis here. Like the first one is just going to be the amount of time you take to make the Live 2D model, right? Even if you decide to make it itself entirely, right? That's still a decent amount of time that you have to actually set up the entire thing. Because like all you have to do is watch a Honey Goblin stream to see how much time it actually takes to create a VTuber model in something like Live 2D, right? In all honesty, if you want something that can be like more quickly modified, a 3D model is more effective than a Live 2D model. But Live 2D models usually look better than the 3D models. Although some people have really good 3D models. And then this one, again, it's like, obviously as like a time, this is easier to work around time constraints with this than it is with the Live 2D model. So even if you prefer the Live 2D model, this would still be a benefit. And also, the thing is, again, just monetary values. This is going to be way cheaper, right? So it's going to cost less of your actual, again, time, productivity, availability, or like people's belief in your work, you know, translated into physical dollars or like, you know, whatever currency you're using. Yeah, Firestorm Cabot says, I would have 2 versions of a spring, summer, and a fall, winter, so to be able to switch easier would be nice. That, you know, fair enough. That's a good point.
VTube Studio, or they just want to make really fast like models for all sorts of little fun stuff, or something more comfortable because
yeah, because again, not everything needs to be equally as like a intentional as well, right? It's like there's no reason why you couldn't have a main Live 2D and 3D model, but then like for collabs, possibly use a like one of these AI systems in order to enhance the collab, right? Like there's an obvious place. Even if you don't like these, they wouldn't prefer not to use one of these. It's still useful for someone who doesn't. 3D models have their own problems. It just depends on how much time you want to work on. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's entirely true. Like, right, it's like tracking drift is one thing that is definitely an issue with 3D models, especially if you use like the slime trackers. The slime trackers are cheap, but they also work, generally speaking, but they're subject to drift, and they're not as precise because they use internal, because they calculate position internally, versus, for example, something that uses from like a station, like a tracker from the tracks from the outside, right? I forgot what they're called, but like, you know, one using a station. Those tend to be more precise than the slime, than the ones with the internal trackers, but they have their own strengths and weaknesses.
they are a lot easier to puppet / pilot than a live TD. So it's really up to that. And you can see that they all have, and you can really set this up however you want. And they track your emotive state as well. And it's just really great for like kind of doing neat things like going AFK. Just very, very cool and interactable. And like I said, I made this for Warhammer.
Again, you can't look at this and tell me that, like, yeah, sure, even if you don't like the jank in it, right? Which I find is fine. That doesn't really bother me. But like, even if you don't like the jank in it, you can't tell me that there's no utility in this particular program, right? I think Leaf could potentially charge good money for this, to be perfectly honest. And even good money, she could probably make good money off of this, even if she doesn't charge that much for it, right? So, let's see. Kionalo says, and kicked me. That's fair. Well, lost contact.
And just to show kind of one that I made for my friend. This one I made for my friend's tabletop session. So she was playing TTRPGs, and if you're looking for one, rpg.angelsword.com is a game that I work on. It's called Angel Sword RPG. Very good combat in the system. So if you're interested in that, come check it out.
Yeah, this looks like the very natural advancement of like the way that Keen does his streams, right? With his avatar.
Free to play, by the way. So me as a tabletop player, these kind of things really help me.
If she made money, she would make. If she made money, the money she would make, she could hire actual programmers. I mean, yeah, she probably. Well, it depends, right? I have a sneaking suspicion a lot more people would just buy this thing to play with it than would actually use it for any real purposes, right? But yeah, she probably could, to be perfectly honest. And even then, it's like, well, it kind of depends. You don't really need a lot of programmers for this. Maybe you just, if you want a professional programmer, one professional programmer would probably be fine, just to, again, double check the AI. But I don't know that I would do that if I actually had, if I was making money off of this myself, right? It'd be like, why would I go to a human being who's probably going to have to know my actual name, right?
To get kind of more in the mood, get me more in character. And so this really, really helps out a lot with that. You can add really cool things like my friend has this, like an item that's really important to her character is a memory bubble, and she's got a little emote where she can bring it up and like kind of look at it, you know.
Interesting.
Remember the good times, you know. And you can,
lads, we must ponder the orb.
really do a lot of these custom things with your characters for tabletop games. And again, it's like I said, you can make this for your tabletop characters something that would be completely ridiculous to do with like live 2D. And it's a lot more interactive. You can have some cool game mechanic stuff as well for your characters, and it really does makes you feel a lot more like you're in character, which I really like. So she has a staff weapon. She is like a battle mage. So it's got like a little toggle to pull it out, and she can.
Animation was a little wonky there. It was going backwards, so like the actual movement line should have been in the opposite direction. But again, this is all a learning curve for the AI itself, right? Do you think it's in collab with Malcolm's RFab AI? I genuinely don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case, because I think when Leaflet was talking with Malcolm, if I remember correctly, about these kinds of things, right? They talked about collabing to create new AI programs as well. So this very well could have been one of those things that came about from this. I'm not entirely sure. I don't really keep up that much with Basecamp, but I've been getting back into them recently.
Do little spins with it. Just if you want to do something fun. And then when she gets into combat, this is actually an ability that her character has.
Fair.
You can see that it actually does still have a talking state, so she can talk like when she's ready for battle like this, right?
I'm kind of surprised that that
You
sound
can
isn't
have,
trademarked.
Like, states within states, because you can see like she
Or
pulls
copyrighted.
the staff out, and then the staff itself has another animation set within it, like the container of it, right? So you can really use it to really customize and do a lot of really, really cool stuff. And then you can put it away to go back into your neutral state where you have a lot of your emotes.
Hold on, what's that?
And then you can put it away.
Okay, this one's going in the right direction. Okay. It looked like it was going in the wrong direction last time. This time it's going in the correct direction.
To go back into your neutral state where you have a lot of your emotes. And you can, again, control a lot of these just with your expression, just your face. And what you're going to want to do when you get into it is you're going to want to...
Because he was working on AI to generate VTube characters. I mean, yeah, this was basically going to happen, and for quite a while. Like, you got to remember that, like, Pipkin Pippa, she didn't exactly have an AI for this per se, right? But she did generate a whole, like, VTuber agency, right? Using AI, specifically novel AI, to, like, create the general concept art and the character background lore and the story and all that stuff. So this idea was going to be eventually something that took off, right? I, for one, welcome the AI overlords, right? Assuming that the AI overlords aren't communists, right?
Everyone's face is different. You're going to have to really fine tune it to like what the values look like when you're smiling, when you're sad, you're surprised, when your face is normal, as well as like your mic threshold and like your crossfades, really depending on your character. You're going to want to test it. And it also has SFX volume as well. So you can actually control that, and
ooh, nice.
With streaming in mind. So, if
okay, yeah. So that is actually backwards.
Control that, and I made it with streaming.
Yeah, because you can see that she's spinning it clockwise, but the motion blur indicates it should be moving counterclockwise.
In mind, so if you have a really loud animation sound, you can mute it, and you can also just lower the volume. Oh.
The Quango fears the leaf. That's all I gotta say. Yeah, I can actually see a lot of really interesting things that can be done with this that aren't being talked about right now.
I'm working on this, and I'm planning to make it fully online, and we'll see how it goes. I'm pretty busy this month, so I don't know when I'll have it done. And a lot of people have been asking me about it, which is why I made this video.
That's entirely fair, right? You got to keep the people informed about how things are going in the production of your, the things you're making. Lightsaber staff, right? Oh my god, yeah. I mean, to be fair, it is basically a glaive, is it not?
I'm gonna try to have it done in the next couple of weeks, at least to a point that it's available for most people that want to try it out. And I'm gonna just release it probably for free. And if anything, I'll probably have some premium options for people that want to host it online. If you want to use it just like how people use reactive images, where you can just have it up on the website and everybody can put it in their browser source. And really the goal is to have it so that you can have like your entire party, like 4 to 5 people on screen, all with these really, really cool animations, like using them to
absolutely, that's what I was talking about.
Have a good time. So that's kind of the idea behind it, and I hope you look forward to that. Anyway.
Oh, I definitely am. I'm excited to see what, again, I'm excited to see the things people are actually going to come up with when use AI for in the creative community, right? Because the reason the left hates AI isn't because of the threat it poses to the human spirit. It's because of the threat it poses to their ideological project, right? Let's see. Ain't a glaive a two-pronged spear? It doesn't have to be two-pronged. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, the thing she had earlier is effectively a spear, right? It is basically a blade at the end of a stick, which is the fundamental nature of a spear, right? Like a naginata is another thing. Like that would be like a Japanese glaive, right? So it's not necessarily two-pronged. This is a fucking peak reference to fucking Lord of the Rings. After all, why not? Why shouldn't I also become a VTuber? Everyone after Lee finishes this program. I mean, why not, right? Like, take back your fucking anonymity. I really want anonymity, people caring about their anonymity to come back, right? We're too fucking, like, eager to share everything with people we don't know for no goddamn reason, for some reason in this culture. Ember Paradox says, this looks amazing, could be an absolute game changer for VTubing. Yeah, I think it will be, to be perfectly honest, right? Because, yeah, sure, you're going to have those little animated emotes in because you're going to see, like, the people who hate AI, right, are going to, in the mainstream VTubing community, and they're going to have these, like, again, the standard old thing that we have earlier, where it's just, like, you might have, like, a little animation GIF for when people are talking, right? But then, like, the actual the AI VTuber is going to lean into the increasing degrees of ADHD by making sure your brain is always saturated with dopamine and serotonin by the things on the screen always moving and changing about what they're doing, right? we gotta hack the brain. We gotta make sure we drill our way into their neurology, right? Maria Grace VT. By the way, I actually saw this person's debut when it happened. Like, whoa, this is really neat technology. It just needs some smoothing out and polishing it. It will be an amazing tool to get around the super high cost of VTubing. And to be fair, you could probably take the files individually and, like, clean them up if you can do some, like, editing in Photoshop and Illustrator, or like in Clip Studio, or any of these other things, right? If you really wanted to, you could probably break them apart into frames and then, like, recompile them yourselves. So, like, it is a thing you could do if it was really that important. But again, I think that these things will get better over time. Let's see. Emerald Apple says, the most I've ever done with VTubing, quote unquote, was Vroid model with a generic 3D avatar. I did it for YouTube videos a while back for some AI tutorials I did. Something like this would definitely be fun to do. Can't wait to see how the project develops. Agreed. And here we go. I mentioned him earlier, right? Helping the people and enraging quangos at the same time. A wonderful tool. How do you do it? How do you keep doing such amazing things? How incredible. Well, she actually answers this in one of her videos, right? She doesn't make excuses. She just goes out and does things, right? It's like a Torst Wolf. Nah, you can't just help small creators like that. It shall be a feature you get after a trial of death. You have survive a FFA and a game of Angel Sword TTRPG with a character build that is the character you embody / want to. God damn it. Live GIF tuber. Mizuki's on this. Amazing Leaf. I wonder, though, how heavy it's going to be comparatively, for example, with VTube Studio software. That's where the fine tuning. Oh, that's where it's like, again, it depends on how the coding goes, right? GIFs blow up people's computers. Couldn't be me. Yeah, I kind of figured she was talking about about Keen, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. So, yeah, long story short, Brewer says, well done, Leaf. You have inspired me to branch out into this part of the AI generation. Now I just need to get the energy to actually act on it. As always, you are an inspiration. Agreed. Just... It looks like Gleeman's got some ideas, right? Zayla. It's like really something VTuber tech has been needing for a long time. Yeah. Again, and people are quite excited about this, right? Simply John, Iron Tiger. Let's see. I don't know. Do I know who Commander Tito is? I do know who Commander Tito is. Okay. Arc Dev. Fucking the Toxican Mexican Awoo, right? You got DJ Nathaniel, Useless Useful, Kyle Whittaker, Mind of Raw, Happy Harble. Just like, again, the whole community seems to be interested in this for, obvious reasons. This is absolutely something you could make your money's worth on, right? And it says it's going to be free. So, you know, the free bit, right, is definitely going to help, right? Because people presumably want to be able to also make content that they can eventually monetize, right? There's nothing wrong with that. So if you can sharply cut down the cost in doing that, you make this particular project more likely to be something you can actually livably do, right? Because I guarantee you there's creators out there who can actually be creative and like entertaining, but they want a VTuber avatar to keep their privacy. You know, oh my, perfect timing, right? Oh my god. Speak of, oh my god. Right when I was like reading off the comment section, right? Free sounds too expensive, right? Clearly we are the product, right? And in the case of Leaflet, yeah, we are the product, right? Even if it makes it free, the product is, again, just the production of new culture. Literally, the production of new culture is the payment in this particular case, right? Doctor of Insanity says part 4 of the bricks and minifigs is out. I will watch it tomorrow. So yeah, I am very excited for this particular project. I can't wait to see what people are going to actually do with this. And I think this is an actual godsend to the community, to be perfectly honest. Just as you mentioned me too, right? Truly the synchronicity, right? All right. So now that we have that, so here we have another thing today with Chibi reviews, right? These just commenting on this little thing. This is, by the way, not just this person. This is like a whole like thread that's actually really fun to look into. So the original comment is the bedroom of a 26-year-old married woman. You know, notice married, right? Let's see. And Chibi Reviews is just pointing out, it's a tragedy how many people are throwing insults at this married woman for sharing her hobby and room. Goes to show true otaku culture is hated more than ever. Yeah, it turns out people really do hate old school otaku, right? People do hate, you know, like old school fans, and we all knew this, right? But you know, when you actually act like an old school fan, you get treated as an old school fan because it turns out old school fans don't like to abide by the Gramscian project that has been trying to undermine literally every aspect of cultural production, right? So before we get on to this part, right, let's just take a small detour, right, and just look at these beautiful rooms, right? So this is from K, which is at PC9801X. Again, bedroom of a 26-year-old married woman. And damn, this is an enviable room. I wish mine looked like that, right? Oh, you can tell this person is a Toaru and like, you know, fan. Oh my god. Those Dakis, man. And yeah, you had some dickheads down here be like, this is fake because real girls hate lollies. By the way, this is the leftist thing where they do the thing where it's like, oh yeah, they redefine a term to exclude the people they don't like from it, right? So I was like, oh yeah, you may be female, but you're not but you're not a real girl if you enjoy lolly, right? This is exactly the thing that's going on here, right? It's like, oh yeah, they're not really trans if they oppose the communist agenda, right? They're not really a woman if they oppose the communist agenda, right? They're more like, instead of being part of the proletarian classes per se, they're part of a petty bourgeoisie, right? They're part of the oppressed class, you know, TM that wants to be part of the oppressor. Yeah, this is the underlying logic going on with this Raven Dark retard, right? This was just funny when I saw it, right? Why is she doing the new metal pose? And I will never be able to unsee this because this is fucking funny. Oh my god. I never really watched like music videos for the most part. I always just listen to music. So I never realized this was the new metal pose. It's like, that's fucking funny. Let's see, holy shit, is that a motherfucking Toaru reference, right? Yeah, they were definitely those. Oh, wait, yeah. Well, I forgot to look at the other picture. So this is the one we left off on. And yeah, you can see, huge anime fan, right? And this is another thing. Again, going back here, you can see the Dakis on the wall, right? Let's see. And yes, that was an excuse for me to continue looking at the Dakis because the Dakis are really cute, right? But you can also see all the posters and all this stuff. this person has an affinity to things that are cute and beautiful, right? And it actually turns out that surrounding yourself with beauty and cuteness actually does help your health, right? It doesn't just help your mental, it also helps your physical health. Hello, Kun. Let's see. Not enough gunpla personally, right? Well, I mean, to be fair, it did say 26-year-old married woman, right? Not 26-year-old married man with a unusually permissive wife, right? Let's see. Kionello says lollies are cute. Yeah, they are, right? You don't have to be a fucking perv in order to find like lollies, like, again, endearing. They're just cute, right? You can see, for example, some of the more moe faces on here. You can see different eras in this particular room. The Toho, dolls on the shelves. It looks like a moon phase. It looks like one of those has moon phase, Sailor Moon, a bunch of other stuff. Oh, there's Hololive on the bottom left-hand side. You can see Gargura, Pekora, and I don't know who I can't really recognize the other one. It's a little bit too grainy for me. And it looks like Pekora's mom is on the shelf right to the left of it. The Fumos, yes. I wonder what the husband's room looks like. That's a good point, right? That is a good question, what the husband's room... Oh. I didn't even notice that, right? I did not even notice it. Cringe! Cringe to be married and have different rooms. That is my decree, right? The most cringe thing about this is not the anime. It's that is that possibly the risk of not having sharing a bed with one's husband, right? Cringe, I say. Cringe. Anyway, let's go down this rabbit hole just a bit. Because again, I always find these like little collection threads entertaining, right? Again, 25-year-old woman. We're talking Soire. I don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce this. Am I supposed to pronounce this like an Irish word or a Japanese word? I don't know. Yeah, it looks like this person's a fan of Final Fantasy, right? Got a Switch, it looks like. Ooh, a Miku. Which Miku is that, right? Let's see. Maybe one's a bedroom and the other's a relaxation room. That's possible, right? Let's see. Ooh, I like that little scroll. I like the scrolls. Let's see. And yep, we got the shelves filled with all the figurines and stuff, and we got this little Nintendo-looking game here that I don't recognize because I don't really play a lot of Nintendo games. To be fair, it doesn't necessarily have to be his bedroom. Okay, that's fair. Let's see. Kionella, Sailor Moon, Heart. I had a Millennium Crystal, but it fell and broke and stabbed me when I picked it up, so I threw it away in the garbage in revenge. It was a gift from a friend that ghosted me. Understandable. Yeah, they got some manga here as well that you can see. Ooh, we got some like really frilly dress figurines on the bottom too. Let's see. Ooh, hold on. Long-haired Ray at the top. I'm just gonna say, we're all used to Ray having the short hair. When I actually got to that part in the movie where Ray had the long hair, I fucking popped off. I was like, yo! Right? Animal Crossing? I mean, probably. It does look like it's the Animal Crossing art style, but I've never really played it in depth, so I wouldn't know. So yeah, it's just, I like seeing people's collections, even if I don't necessarily always know what the hell I'm looking at sometimes, right? Ooh, hold on. Ah, that's cringe Dan Brown. Okay. Let's see. There's a civil law textbook down here. Political law? Oh, cringe. Okay, this is someone that's probably going to college right now. Oh, well. They are doomed, as we say, right? 25-year-old woman, right? Okay, so here we go. Seems like they like Splatoon, right? Oh, and there's actually apparently a huge Disney fan. Actually, it seems like this is a bit of a normie. There's like a lot of Nintendo and Disney. Oh, there's a kitty cat. There's two of them, actually. Oh, that cat is adorable. Yeah. So it seems to be mostly a Disney and Nintendo fan, to be perfectly honest. I'm not a big Disney fan. I actually have a lot of complaints about Disney, right? Let's see, what do we got here? Okay, now we got Pokemon here, right? Again, going back to the whole Nintendo thing I was talking about earlier. And yeah, this one's a bit more modest, but still enjoyable. Still an enjoyable setup, right? Very much a Nintendo person kind of deal. So yeah, I mean, there's that. I don't know. I enjoy these kinds of threads, right? But yeah, apparently this lady got fucking. She's gotten shown quite a lot of, love for her collection because, again, Toaru fan, obviously, right? But what the fuck is this? Yeah, again, like these retards, right? This idiot right here, Fry, is like, Twitter thinks I'm a child fucker. Hope he divorces you. You're a pedo. Again, because first of all, reset the clock. This guy probably has skeletons in his closet, right? But yeah, as people were saying earlier, some of this stuff is his apparently, right? It's like, yeah, you know what? Fair enough, right? Maybe this is the shared room, right? And this is just they have a shared hobby. Maybe, I don't fucking know, right? But again, it's like you see this, and your first thought here is, "You're a pedo. I hope he divorces you." This person is absolutely fucking unhinged, and of course he has a Chainsaw Man fucking fucking profile pic, right? Is this? Let's see, just a second. Yeah, again, this retard, right? Fucking Common Writer. Right, again, all these fucking absolute retard. Oh, hold on. Oh, they talk about stuff that they want to. To be fair, that Lelouch figure is actually pretty fucking cool. But yeah, so I don't know. It's just I agree again with Chibi on this particular thing. It's completely like disproportionate, some of the shit people are saying to her. And this popped up in my feed and was like, it's really cute. I like these kinds of things, so I just wanted to get away from the doomer politics for a moment, right? Let's see. Hold on. Ooh, I missed a little bit. Let's see. Kionala says the pony poster I have of people on it is Skyward Sword, Legend of Zelda 2. Fair enough. Oh, only. Okay. Let's see. Kun says, I think I'm a bit too mecha and specifically Gundam focused to really grok more general otaku style. I mean, that's fair. Kionala says, I wish I could afford Gunpla. They would be fun to paint. Kun says, someone that is the husbands I see. Some of it's the husbands I see. Props to the married couple. I especially the Death Scythe. Let's see. Still need a Death Scythe myself. I mean, that's fair, right? But yeah, anytime you see someone show their like genuine otaku-ness online, people jump down their throat, even if they're fucking married and they have kids, right? It happens every fucking time, right? Because it turns out in the activists, there are two sides. There are two wolves, right? Two sides of the argument. Either anime is degenerate or anime is right-wing propaganda, right? If you're on the far left, anime is very clearly right-wing coded, and then if you're on the very far right, the whole thing is like, yes, degenerate slop. And it's like, no, both of you were retarded, right? Both sides of this conversation are fucking retarded. Let's see. Also a Shenlong or an Ultron and a Sandrock. Interesting. Fair enough. So yeah, I just wanted to show this before going into the next subject. Oh yeah, before leaving this though, this basically sums up the entire lolly argument in there too, right? Is the whole, I like anime spiders, I don't like real spiders. That's impossible. You just gotta come out and say you want to fuck spiders. The drawing depicts a spider, bro. Does it? This is kind of what a lot of these people actually sound like, to be perfectly honest, when they talk to people who actually enjoy lollies, even as, people who are lolicons. This is basically what they hear, right? But the people who aren't lolicons, right? They just like lollies because they're cute, right? They don't actually have any kind of sexual proclivity to them. Again, it's just, oh yeah, it's cute, I like it. And then these retards come in and they're like, oh yeah, cute, because these people on the bottom can't engage in media without wanting to have some kind of sexual proclivity to it. They have to project that on everyone else. But I digress, right? It's a thing I see all the fucking time in these dialogues. Let's see. There are two wolves in them. Both are dumb, yeah? Kionella says, married with kids that love anime, the parents know which ones are truly kid safe. Exactly, right? If you're a parent, it is your obligation to watch cartoons. That way, you don't end up putting your kid in front of something that's fucking dangerous if you are going to let them watch cartoons, right? You have to be actively involved in this shit. And that's why, again, good children's programming is good family programming, right? Something the entire family can watch. Back in the 2000s and the 90s, we seem to understand that, right? You had shows like Jackie Chan Adventures, fun for the whole goddamn family, right? You had things like Shaolin Showdown, again, fun for the entire family. You had things like Oban Star Racers, again, good family content. But, you know, I digress, right? Let's see. Kun says less ooh and more come on, Otaku. We talked about this once over a month ago. Oh, are you talking about the UO thing? I have no idea. It's been a while. I've talked about a lot of things between them, right? Let's see. Kionella says, I love all spider. They are cute and keep the flying bugs out of my nose. That's fair, right? Especially those huntsmen in Australia. All right, you're showing an arachnophobe images of real spiders. I curse upon your technology. That's fair. Uncle was my spirit. Yeah, Uncle was the spirit, your spirit animal. Everyone fucking loves Uncle, right? Magic must defeat magic. Right? One more thing. Oh my god, everyone fucking loves Uncle. Oh my god. Too bad that, like, when they sell, too bad that the fucking DVD collections of Jackie Chan Adventures that are actually sold are completely out of fucking order. That's frustrating. I have the entire series on DVD, and it's just completely out of order, and that's just so frustrating. Much love for Uncle? Absolutely, right? Oh, god damn it. Okay, that's what you were talking about. Okay, so, Kun. Okay, Kun. Okay, that's what you were talking about. That is so fucking embarrassing. Oh, my god. Because I thought you were talking about the, like, the Uo meme. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm so confused. No, you're actually talking about your name. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Let's see. He can send a spell through the phone, but not a piece of paper. Oh my god. Truly, Uncle is the best. You are correct, Kun. Okay. So, just heads up. I do know that there is this thing going on between, like, the Catholic Church and the SSPX. I'm not going to cover that today, but I will probably cover this at some point when I get a better understanding as to what the fuck is going on with this, right? Because this is actually big news with large, you know, societal ramifications. But I need to get the other side of the conversation to actually explain themselves to me. That way I can have a decent understanding of what the fuck is going on. Because I've only heard the Catholic side. I haven't heard the SSPX side yet. Okay, so let's see. Where I think I had a story in here somewhere. Let's see. Completely unapologetic defense. That's changing consumer habits. I'm going to use that later, so that's not it. Might have actually lost it. Oh, well, happens from time to time. But here's a story, if we're going to do a little bit of news today, right? Let's see. Vietnamese man. Vietnamese man. It's rough even for me. That's fair. Excommunicated. Well, I know they're excommunicated, right? I mean, they actually excommunicated themselves in accordance to, like, the code of canon law. I just don't understand what the schism per se is, because, like, I genuinely don't understand what the SSPX is, you know, autisming out about, to be perfectly honest. Like, I've heard a couple people explain it, but, you know, as someone who actually has some familiarity with modern post-Vatican II Roman Catholic theology. It's like a lot of what it seems to be said is not true, but it's only like lay defenders of the SSPX who probably don't really know what they're talking about, who've been telling me any of this stuff in the first place. So it's like, again, it seems to be just a bit of a clusterfuck. And it's like, I highly doubt this is like old Catholic, Roman Catholic split or seat of acontism split to electric boogaloo, right? I don't think that's happening, but especially because they're not seat of acontists, so I genuinely don't know what the fuck they're on about. They named their own bishops. Well, I gathered that part. I gathered that part. I gathered that part. I know that them consecrating bishops without papal approval confers an automatic excommunication, which means that the Pope doesn't even actually give the excommunication. It's automatically excommunicating themselves, and then the Pope just recognizes that that is the punishment that just happened. So, again, with like Based Camp talking about how the Pope is doing this, no, the Pope is not doing this. It is literally in the Code of Canon Law that if they do this, this is the consequence, right? So it's like, again, it's one of those times where it's like they're usually good. They have no fucking clue what they're talking about right now, because I don't think any of these people have ever read a Boston Catechism before. Let's see. Or anything in the Code of Canon Law. Mind of Brawl says, well, Base Camp did an episode on the Catholics and their last schism. Yeah, actually, hold on. I brought that up actually in this because if anyone was going to be able to actually address anything that they say, this guy actually is very well versed in Catholic canon law and theology. So I gave the suggestion to do a reaction or a response to that video, right? Because he knows way more about the SSPX thing than I do. I just need to go and check to see if I can find any resources from the SSPX themselves to get a better understanding of like where they're coming from. Just like I've been able to do with like seat of acontists and like old Catholics. But anyway, long story short, that's a thing for a later time, right? Where was this? Oh yeah. So, bit of a minor news story today, right? Because we're not going to do a lot of news today, but this did catch my fucking attention, right? Because I heard this at work, so I wasn't watching the screen, and I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" That sounds like a fucking that sounds like a badass story to tell, and I had a fundamental misunderstanding of what was going on at the moment, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to tell my kids the misconception that I had about this story and tell them it was true. Because that shit's fucking funny as shit. So, here we go.
Texas middle school teacher Hero rushes out naked with gun to stop a savage from attacking a 15-year-old girl.
See, I heard naked. And I'm like, this man fucking busted out of the house, right? Busted out of the house, fucking dong in the wind, right? Fucking Newton's cradle a clacking, right? With a fucking gun. Like, get off that. So I'm like, what? This man, I thought this man was channeling his inner ancestral berserker, right? I had that image in my head, and I was like, that is a fucking great image, actually, right? He doesn't actually look all that different from what I kind of assumed he would look like, to be perfectly honest. But if you pay attention to the censored part of that picture on screen, you will notice he is in his underwear. He's not naked. I'm like, not that this makes this any less heroic. It doesn't, right? He's still charged out with a gun to stop a rape from happening. Again, one of those things where it's like, yes, who's doing the thing? Oh, is it them? It's always them, boo-boo, right? It's literally that moment for part of this. But, aside from that, just... Oh, man, I was so disappointed when I found out he was in his boxers. I was like, that's just such a funny fucking image. That is just such a funny fucking image. Oh, my God. But anyway, long story short. Yeah, so this guy busted out of his house in his underwear with a gun and stopped a sexual assault from happening. Let's see. Hold on. Philip says, Amalgamite did a reading on the paper. Ooh, nice. Let's see. Kun says, going to be honest, anytime someone on a video starts going over religious stuff, my neural net starts buffering for all that I should care a bit, considering my sister went Catholic. I mean, I get it, right? It's just not interesting to everyone in the same way. Let's see. I just can't muster an iota of caring about religious stuff. I get it. Again, it's an apatheism, right? It's a bit of an apathy about religion. Wait, what was busted? The door, right? Oh my god! Yes, Doctor. Guns glocked, dog out, right? He was waving 2 guns, right? Could you fucking imagine? It's like, sir, calm down! Oh my god. Fucking hell, mate. So, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Kirsha reads this whole thing. It's just, I wanted to comment on this just a little bit, because it's like, I was so disappointed when I found out this guy wasn't going full berserker, like running into the midst of battle naked for the most part. I'm like, damn, that would have been such a story. Right? But it seems he either sleeps in his underwear or he had the time and speed to just put some underwear on before running outside. Not as funny a story, but still a funny story, but still like a funny way to react to this. Let's see. Kuhn says, you know, if I had a nickel for every time a man ran out of his house near naked chasing someone, between this and William Afton's actor, fair enough.
A brave teacher in Harris County, Texas, heard screams late at night and spotted a thug beating a 15-year-old girl on the ground outside of his apartment, trying to rip her clothes off after following her from a bus stop. David Garza didn't hesitate. He grabbed his pistol, ran outside, pointed it at the predator, and ordered him to stop. The terrified girl screamed, "I'm 15, help me."
Yeah. Again, the man just, like, a good guy with a gun stopped a fucking, like, sexual assault from it. Well, actually, it sounds like it would have been more than just a sexual assault. But, yeah, so it turns out a good man, a good, almost naked man with a gun stopped a, again, sexual assault. It turns out the good man with the gun narrative turns out to be true almost every fucking time, right? Keanu says, I'm not into religion, but this Gnostic stuff makes for fun ideas for stories, and no wonder it's been used a lot in Japanese stories. Oh yeah, it's used quite a bit. They usually have a more of a Mahayana inflection to it, because like Mahayana is a bit of a Gnostic. Well, I mean, Buddhism itself is heavily Gnostic, but you know, it's a more esoteric version of Buddhism, right? So there's a lot that can be pulled straight from that. But there was a time when Japan was really interested in Western religious traditions, and that included things like Kabbalah, which is why you find Kabbalistic imagery in like Evangelion and in like Full Metal Alchemist, and Kabbalistic references and things like Razafan and all that other stuff. And you also see, for example, references to Hermeticism all over Full Metal Alchemist, because it turns out most alchemic, practice was heavily influenced by Hermeticism, and it's just all over the place in like anime of the time. To be perfectly honest, Manichaeism was another thing that was also apparently really interesting. Really interested the Japanese at the time, but you know, you definitely see that mostly in things like Devilman. Kun says, Persona 5 kind of hit me good. That's fair.
You're not gonna fucking square up with a psychopath who comes out naked with a gun.
Again, that's psychological warfare right there. Why do you think people sometimes, like, the reports of, like, again, like, people be like, these people are fucking mad, right? Of berserkers in, like, the Germania, right? Just running into battle naked, which, by the way, could mean like actually physically naked, but it also could mean just unarmed, right? That is another thing that it sometimes just, naked in that context sometimes just means unarmed. Like in the case of like the story of Beowulf, right? Where Beowulf decides to fight the, Grendel, yeah, it was Grendel. Decides to fight Grendel naked. He's probably got clothes on in the story. He's probably fighting him without weapons because the monster doesn't have weapons, right? But yeah, I digress, right? But yeah, this man channeled his inner fucking berserker, and absolutely, I personally think he would have been justified in putting a cap in that ass, to be perfectly honest, right? Again, like, put the dog down on the spot, as you know. But I understand that he may not live in a state which, actually, he's in Texas. He probably could have gotten away with it if he decided to do that. Hitting my 90s gestation hard there, right? It's like a giant muscled man comes running at you nude. You gonna run? Yeah, I'm gonna assume the guy might be on meth or something, right? Or he might be schizophrenic if that's the case. If that's happening to me, to be perfectly honest, I'm not gonna fight someone with either fucking drug or or retard strength. To be perfectly honest, never challenge the man who lets it all hang out.
All right, that's horrifying. Ain't nobody gonna fight that guy. The attacker let go of her hair immediately and fled when he saw armed resistance. This is what real men do. They act, they don't just film. One good guy with a gun stopped a monster from destroying a child's life.
This is a bit of an unfair comparison as well, because the psychology of this and like what you're complaining about is also like wildly different. Almost every time it's a person recording, it's also in a large crowd, and you have the issue of the bystander effect where everyone else assumes someone else is going to do the thing, right? And that includes people who are often like this guy, who, if it was only them, would actually step in, right? So as much as like we got to remember that, like, again, these things like things don't happen in the abstract, they happen with background context. And yes, there is actually more about this to say than just, again, oh, stop recording and actually do something. No, the recording part is also kind of important, because if no one's recording and then something happens, then there's no way to vindicate the good guy for doing the good guy thing. If people to say, you know, if a bad actor decides to potentially try to hold them responsible for something that wasn't their responsibility, right? Let's see. Kionel says, I'm talking about berserkers, but then again, they may be on something. Well, they probably did take drugs. Kun says, not in Florida. I trip over those on the commute. Fair.
Heroes like this teacher are out there protecting our communities when seconds count.
Yep.
Now let's get this out there everywhere and help police identify the attacker.
Agreed. Like, obviously, whoever was doing this needs to absolutely go to prison for a long time. This is fucking unacceptable, and they need to actually, again, be held to account for the thing that they've done. I'm just saying, fucking absolutely wild story here.
True. I personally think it looks like this guy has boxers on, because it looks like part of his torso is blackened behind the blur. So I think he might have had boxers, but can you imagine just like the fear on a bad guy's face if a guy bursts out of his house, dick swinging, gun locked and loaded? That's horrifying. That's a real man right there. He's like, you put down that teenager!
Oh my god. Oh my god. Man, that's such a good story. I wish that was actually what happened. Holy shit. That would have been such an actual, could you fucking imagine? Oh my god. Still a hero, right? Still did the right thing, still did what needed to be done, right? But oh my god. Would that have been, would that slight tweak of facts just made this a more compelling story? Oh man. Yes, I very much am. I didn't realize until she said this because again I was listening to this at work and I heard her talk about this and I was like, wait a minute. I thought someone said that this man rushed out there naked. In your boxers may be in a state of undress, but that is not a state of nakedness, to be perfectly honest, right? Like, nakedness is a type of undress, but it is not the only kind of undress, right? You go into a battlefield without any kind of like bulletproof armor. You're in a state of undress of some kind, right? But you're not. No one would describe you as naked, right? I'm just putting it out there, right? I was lied to. The story is still great, but I was absolutely lied to. I was not sold what would actually happen.
Not in my house, buddy. Please have boxers on. He's just got that much southern True. You know, he might be a Wookiee.
Oh my god, he's got. Look at all that coarse hair, right? Goddamn. it could have been bad if he had been truly nude in a blue state, but a red state you could consider a pass. I mean, if you happen to be naked when you run outside, you save someone from being raped, right? I think the cops might actually just give you a pass. I'm not going to test that theory out myself, right? I'm going to put on boxers if I have to, at least boxers if I have to do something, right? But that would be an interesting thing to see. It's like, in a red state, hypothetically speaking, when seconds matter, do they care if you're fucking, like, absolutely bearing it all to the wind if you could stop the bad guy, right? Oh my god. Again, I just find this to be intrinsically fucking humorous. Holy shit. Let's see. Can you imagine if the story went to where the last thing the criminal saw alive was his... That's what I said earlier. Like, calm down, man. Calm down. Oh man.
Hawks out, Glocks out, boy, let's go. True.
There's another one. Doctor. You had yours, but the chat had theirs too. Cocks out, Glocks out. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
True, fucking real. The UK would arrest the guy with the gun and hunting down the PDF to apologize to him. Yeah, there was another thing in the UK that I had in tab somewhere.
Okay, maybe I'm mixing up this story with another story too, because I thought that this one was like, I thought that they said in this story that the guy doing the attack was of a particular religion. And apparently they didn't say anything about that in the story. So I might be confusing this story with a different story that I also heard recently, because I'm going to be honest, I don't really have anything to do other than listen to, like, YouTube news coverage all day. So I hear a bunch of stuff and it gets kind of, like, crossed in the wires of my brain sometimes.
Where, like, there was some kind of, like, a beatdown on a guy and they arrested the victim and then they were like, actually, we did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. Also, stop sharing the evidence of the video. Yeah, right? Yeah, fucking right. After the...
That might have actually been the thing I was confusing it with. That actually might have been the thing I was confusing it with. Holy shit. But, yeah. I just wanted to, Okay, hold on. I forgot that this was also in here. How long? This isn't very long. I might as well put that in there. Yeah, today was just an interesting Kirsche day, to be perfectly honest. Talked about, like, human meat being found in kebabs. It talked about fucking, again, birth tourism is apparently a thing now again. We talked about fucking man running out into the open naked to defend someone from being raped, right? It's just fucking interesting news day from people who listen to, the only trusted source in news, right? I didn't really care too much about, like, the Mexican restaurants now charging for, like, salsa and things that were free previously. It's like, yeah, these people in power, the people, again, writing all the, taxations and regulations and the tariffs and all this bullshit, right? Making it, causing inflation. This was an inevitable thing. Eventually, the company can no longer take the hit for the convenience of the customer. And again, it's because of the inshitification of the economy. But holy shit, I forgot how long she was on this subject. Kianala asks, I'm sorry, what? Human kebabs? Was the meat cooked properly? I can do a react to all three of these sections. That shouldn't be that hard. Let's go to the kebab section. Hold on. Because they talk about this a little bit. But, here we go.
Megaphones instead of whispered in secret. I hate to see it. Do you know what's in your kebab? Many people in the UK thought they did, but one of the largest suppliers, Kismet Kebabs, has just been prosecuted for lying extensively. I'd have to say, this is kind of what you fucking get.
I mean, yeah, there are people, again, just because the company says that you're getting something doesn't necessarily mean you're actually going to get it. We all know this, right? But yeah, there was a company that got recently caught for using kebab meat from animals that aren't being advertised. I don't mind about the horse thing, right? but there have been instances where human meat is actually found in kebab, right? And considering some of the leaked emails from like the Jeffrey Epstein bullshittery, right? Not exactly a question of not exactly surprising that maybe some people had human meat kebabs, because it seemed to have been pointing in that direction. But she'll talk about the human meat kebabs later in this thing. I hit the desk. Ow. Yeah, Dr. of Insanity said, let's see. Now here's the question. Was the meat at least worth the price? Possibly, right? I'm sorry. I ordered a doner kebab, not a doner kebab.
For having, like, why are there so many kebab shops in the UK in the first place? Let's think about that for a second. First of all. Second of all, my only...
We all know why there's so many kebab shops, right? The kebab shops are associated with a particular immigration type. And, you know, an increase of that leads to... Because, again, you bring in a bunch of immigrants from other places, and then you're just going to naturally have more people set up restaurants from those culinary, you know, backgrounds. It's just a thing that's going to happen. There's nothing stopping you from learning how to cook, you know, Indian food, yourself. But let's be fair, you bring a bunch of Indians into Texas, and you're going to get more Indian and Pakistani food places, right? It's just the way that things work, right? So you just ask yourself, okay, what cultures are associated with the kebab, right? You got, for example, the Greeks. You bring in a bunch of Greeks from overseas, and then who would have guessed? You get more kebab shops, right? Let's see. Did you hit your funny bone? I did not. It was the tip of my finger.
Interaction with British kebab shops in the past was reading the articles about how a victim of the grooming gangs was chopped up and made into kebab meat. So I have no idea how so many people in the UK seemingly trusted kebab meat. There has to be, like, fake statistics.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly trust UK kebab for a while, to be perfectly honest. Dr. Sanity says, me while eating a kebab, hey, where's Jimmy? Haven't seen him in a while. Wasn't there a Simpsons episode about this exact fucking thing, right? Wasn't there a Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episode where the teachers decided to eat the children, right? They talked about how Uter was particularly succulent as a meal, right? I don't remember what the name of that episode was, though.
This has to be like, oh, all of our politicians loved this kebab meat. The average person knew not to eat it. Wait, why are you guys saying what in all caps? Did a lot of you not know about the fucking grooming gang victim being made into kebab meat? Was that not common knowledge? Am I crazy? Kebabs are good, at least you thought they... I would never eat a kebab unless I made it myself. Ain't no way.
I mean, yeah, especially considering, like, certain groups tend to fuck with your food when, like, again, when they don't like you. So, yeah, I would agree. Kebab is something I would personally only eat if I made it, just due to background context and having experience with certain, you know, groups. I would personally only eat kebabs that I made or that I, you know, came from someone I specifically personally trusted, right? The joy of cooking Millhouse. Okay, there we go. Meat is meat, right? Okay, fair enough. But to be fair, man has a natural aversion to well, that's not a natural aversion. I mean, look at any Paleolithic skeleton, and you'll find a lot of them have cannibalism traits on them. And cannibalism is a thing that has happened recurrently in human history for a reason. But, you know, modern civilized man has a thing against cannibalism for a reason, right? Cannibalism is an insult to the very nature of man.
Their lamb kebabs were labeled as having 50 to 70% of lamb, but DNA testing has shown they have very little lamb.
Yep.
The contents were often skin, fat, goat, beef trim, offcuts, chicken, mutton, and mechanically reclaimed meat.
So basically, they just like So basically, they sold a bunch of shit that's not going to cook properly, and then you're not really going to be able to eat when it's cooked, just to again upcharge essentially.
This is also why I don't like eating certain like jerky meat, mechanically reclaimed chicken. No, thank you.
Hold on. Kun says, I'm gonna butcher this. So it looks to me like it says, Kom Chien Ga, for me, ain't sneaking people meat into my chicken fried rice. That's fair. Cannibal traits, so yeah, so Like, for example, in Papua New Guinea, there's a thing called like a mortuary feast, which is where the decedent, especially an elderly decedent, is actually like butchered and consumed by the tribe because they believe that it's a way to keep the spiritual authority and the knowledge of the elder and the spirit of the elder within the tribe, right? So, like, and in that particular tribe, they actually apparently have a genetic resistance to kuru, which is a prion disease that, is something you can get through cannibalism. If you look, for example, at many skeletons in, like, Neanderthals or in ancient anatomically modern humans, be they Idal, I think it's mostly Sapiens, but I think some Idal too. I don't know how many complete skeletons we have of those. You'll find that a lot of them have been defleshed, and you can tell this because of the marks that the blades make, mostly stone blades, that are, used to deflesh the bones. But they've been very clearly defleshed, right? And it's something that you sometimes see in, like, animal processing for, like, pre-civilizational tribes. And then sometimes you just find, like, actual, like, evidence of being gnawed on. So, yeah. There is quite a bit of evidence of human beings consistently in less civilized times committing cannibalism. Fried rice sounds yummy right now. It really does. Let's see. Or Kam Chien Tom, the shrimp frying my rice is a the shrimp frying my rice is a pro. Fair. Damn, shrimp is good. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty sure my ancestors would curse me. That's fair. Wouldn't they all, right? My ancestors would probably be a little annoyed by the fact I don't speak Spanish. But then again, the side of my ancestors that fought with the Texans probably is like, hell yeah, we wanted to be American anyway, right?
No thank you, buddy. I don't want to eat that. This also reminds me of the issue with Subway years ago, where Subway's chicken was found to be, like, less than 40-something% chicken, and the majority of it was, like, wood pulp or some shit. So, legally, Subway shouldn't have been calling their chicken chicken. Should have been, like, chicken.
I mean, there's a reason I don't eat at Subway, and now I have another reason I don't eat at Subway.
In product. The company made at least £6 million from the fraud, and it was just fined £500,000 plus court costs. They're gonna keep doing it. They don't fucking care.
Yeah.
500,000 is nothing to a company that makes fucking 6 mil. So much for the UK.
The thing is, I think the fraud problem should no longer just be fines. I think people should actually go to prison for it. I don't think it should be just one person. I think multiple people for, like, fraud schemes like this should probably be subject to going to prison. That would actually put a curb in a lot of the fraud problems, right? Is when people actually start going to prison for committing fraud. Because fraud is ultimately a form of theft, right? Let's see, Ken also says, wood pulp ain't the worst thing to eat. I still don't want to eat it.
Number one halal doner.
If you're going to sell me chicken, I want to taste the flesh of the fowl, right?
Kebab manufacturer. Is that a joke?
I mean, to be fair, everyone does eat cinnamon.
There is a joke? There's no way.
You may not be after this. Would you know what's in your doner meat?
What the fuck are you talking about, Doctor? What do you mean the cake subs? No, like Subway, the restaurant. Oh man, my meatball subs. Wait, I haven't had one of those since before the pandemic. You know what? Neither have I, actually.
If I told you it was goat meat.
Oh my god, it is called that. Why the fuck would you call it that? Doner kebab is a real type of kebab.
Yeah, I have a sneaking suspicion Kun might have actually seen this episode of Kirsha's stream before this stream, because he did leverage that particular, like, play on words earlier in the chat.
Bob, but it's a really unfortunate coincidence. I don't care about how of an unfortunate coincidence it is. I would never order something with Donner in the name unless I was at, like, a ha-ha hee-hee Halloween party. We're naming our stuff purposely weird shit.
Fat and even...
Well, that actually kind of reminds me of, like, the Natural History Shorts. Great channel, by the way, if you want to go watch, like, old school Looney Tunes animal-style jokes, right? But, like, more in line with reality. Reminds me of, like, one of the Halloween animations, right? Where it's like the vampire bat had, like, a whole, like, a juice bowl that everyone could get juice out of, right? And everyone thought it was blood. And then it's like, no, it's just juice. And then it turns out, no, it really was blood. It was AB positive blood. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what we got here, right? It's like, yes, the doner kebabs, because it's Halloween. We're going to pretend like we're eating human meat. And it actually turns out it is human meat. It's a perfect crime. No one would fucking expect it, right? It's like the... Oh, my God. You know, talking about like this fucking cannibalism thing, it reminds me of like all like the Wang reports on cannibalism, right? Like the guy who got his foot amputated in a motorcycle accident, and then he made his foot into like fajita tacos. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Let's see. Kun says, no, I don't watch Kirsche. I mean, that's fair. I just assumed that you were probably, because that's some interesting little ESP right there, right? Germany stated Subway can't call their food sub sandwich due to the amount of sugar in the bread and must classify them as a cake. I am gonna have to look this up, because if that's true, that's so fucking funny. Kianala says, I love teriyaki chicken subs, but all the Subways are so far out of my way after they took one out of Walmart. Yeah. Let's see. That was fair. Hello, Kura. It's like, I like coyote meat, but it's not for everyone, and you have to be particular in how you cook it. I mean, yeah, I mean, anytime you eat a carnivore, you do have to be particular about it, because any parasites that the prey animal has, the coyote is going to accumulate too, right? So predators can sometimes be infested with parasites. Let's see. Kun says, no offense to her, just news isn't my kind of YouTuber watch. I mean, that's entirely fair. Good wordplay transcends. It really does.
Well, one of the UK's largest kebab makers was putting that in their doner meat for years and selling it at takeaways to millions of us. And they were only found out after investigators did DNA tests. At a raid at Kismet Kebabs, trading standards officers found boxes of fat, lamb and other meats being put into a grinder and then being labelled as 70% lamb. Some of the bogus kebabs had so much fat in them, shop owners were complaining they were going limp and falling off the sticks as they cooked. The company was fined
For those who are confused about what's wrong with doner.
So yeah, she's about to explain this as well, but yeah, so that's what your kebab is supposed to look like, right? But if your kebab is mostly fat and mostly skin, it's gonna fucking melt on you, right? So, yeah, again, they're upselling by giving you a particular weight of product, but it's not the product you actually fucking paid for, right?
Donner Party is a big thing from the past. I can't remember when it happened in the U.S. Where they cannibalized each other. It was a cannibalism party.
Okay, rewind that just so I can read this, because she doesn't actually read this, and I like to read things that are unread. So what began as a hopeful wagon journey from Missouri turned into a slow march into snow, starvation, and choices so terrible they still make people flinch nearly 2 centuries later. The Donner Party did not simply get trapped in winter. They were forced to watch rescue arrive in pieces while hunger turned their very own dead into the only food left. Right? So this is one of those things where it's not like they wanted to commit cannibalism. They were kind of like forced to do so by circumstance. Let's see. Can stew meat be made into kebabs? I don't see why not, to be perfectly honest. I think that would be more of a Doctor of Insanity question. He knows more about food than I do. But I would imagine you probably could. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to.
£1 million, but said it's now changed its ways. Investigators have compared the case with the horse meat scandal from more than 10 years ago. So
I'm a little on the fence about eating horse, to be perfectly honest. Like, I have this personal thing where it's like, you can divide animals based off their function, right? Some animals are food animals. You know, when you talk about food animals, you think like the cow, because like everything that comes from the cow is magical, right? And then you get things like, sheep. Sheep is a, like, food animal, and you can also get, like, textiles from it, but it's mostly a food animal. Chicken, that's a food animal, right? And then you got animals that are pets, and pets you could describe as something like a companion animal, an animal that has a function, but one of the functions is companionship, right? Obviously, dogs, qualify as like a companion animal, right? Cats, obviously, are a companion animal. I don't know about horses, because horses aren't really food animals, but but you can eat them, right? You can eat a horse. But they're also not like companion animals. You can have a horse as a companion, and horses do actually form strong emotional bonds with their humans, but that's not really the primary function. That's not even a secondary function of the horse in human civilization, right? Like the primary function of a dog is whatever the function of the breed is, and then the secondary function is, again, it's part of the family unit, right? Same thing with the cat. The cat's function is keep the mice out of the fucking pantry, and then again also to be given head pats, right? Let's see. Keanu says, so Donner became Wendigos. Yes. Dr. Vicinity says, I've seen it done before. And Keanu says, vegans don't understand the difference between pet animal and food animal. A cow can be food or pet. I mean, yeah, but let's be fair. The purpose of the cow is to be food, right? It can also be pet if you don't want to make it into food, but the same thing with a pig, right? A pig can be turned into a pet, but its main function societally is to be food. Let's see. A man ate an entire plane before you can eat anything if you have the will, teeth, and stomach strength to do so. Yeah, that person had pica, though.
Donna for dinner?
Donna for dinner? I don't want to eat the prions. Another...
Okay, that's funny. I don't want to get the prions. I don't want to get JCK, I think. Wait, is it... Hold on. Is it JCK or JKD? Wait, hold on. Now I'm actually realizing I actually don't remember how it's spelled. Hold on. Is it Jacobson? Hold on. I gotta look this up. I think it's JKCD. Okay. Huh. All right, let's try the roundabout way to find this, because apparently I'm just off. Oh, okay, no, I had it wrong. Okay, I was wrong. It's CJD. Okay, it's CJD. Fuck. It's a Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease. It's also called subacute spongiform encephalopathy, if you want to know the more medical version of the name, right? But meat cows are super fluffy and cute. I mean, they are, right? Fun fact, the majority of farm animals originate in Asia. I mean, yeah. Right? That you're not wrong about that. Yeah, actually, funny enough, I watched a video about the silk moth like 2 days ago. It was actually really good. Another domesticated animal that originates in Asia, funny enough, right? Let's see. You can eat sheep, but they also can be pet, but also used in textile. Exactly. Obviously, things can have more than one function, right? You can use the same hammer to drive in a nail as much as you can to pull out a nail, but they still have a very particular function. And the whole idea of like making a cow into a pet is definitely a more modern idea, to be perfectly honest. All right, now we're getting to they put human beings into the kebabs.
Brought this up just in case people didn't know about the grooming scandal. They put Charlene Downs into kebabs. Stay away from kebab shops, which, yeah, if I was a British patriot, I would never buy from a fucking kebab shop. Ain't no way. Mother of schoolgirl Charlene Downs, who was murdered and minced into kebabs by Blackpool grooming gang, reveals she's still stuck in that day, 20 years on from her disappearance.
So, again, the reason they do this kind of stuff is the total humiliation of their victims. right? That's the actual reason they do this. This isn't just evil for the sake of evil, although it is evil, right? But it is very specifically to elicit a specific effect from the evil action. And that particular effect is total domination, the complete humiliation of the person that it is that they are trying to destroy, and everyone that they love around them, right? Because I think it would be kind of difficult to get over the fact that, like, someone you loved, especially like your daughter, you found out your daughter wasn't just killed, but was also minced into kebab meat, possibly sold to other people to eat, right? Unknowingly. Or possibly knowingly. But, you know.
And this article, 20 years on from it happening,
And
2020.
And yeah, it is kind of like, you can see Stephen Law's the one who posted this comment, but yeah, it's what a fucking quote of that BBC News article that we had just read, right?
3, by the way.
Well, not read, but you know what I mean.
You remember there suddenly being a lot of Donner Party jokes in the 90s? It was a fad. No idea why it suddenly gained traction 100 years after the fact. Yeah, I remember it, or learning about it from playing Gex. Because in one of...
Core fucking memory unlocked. Gex the Gecko. Great game, by the way. I didn't catch the Donner Party thing because I never thought to actually look up the joke. So, yeah, that one completely flew over my head when I was a wee lad. Keanu says, fun fact, I'm terrified of moths, but silk moths are cute. Oh, yeah, and they can't fly. Kura says, Islam needs to be exsanguinated. Yeah, I personally would agree, right? Destroy the religion. But that being said, you did see this immediately as like a leftist cope. It's like, oh, well, Muslims don't drink, as if like anyone in any given religion ever always follows the edicts of their religion in the first place, right? No, totally. You're never going to find a fucking Catholic priest, you know, in a sexual relationship. You're never going to find fucking like Baptist, you know, commit adultery. Never going to happen, right? It's against their religion. You're never going to find, let's say, you're not going to find like a Jew eating bacon, right? It's just not something that they do, right? No, the people do these kinds of things. But what they don't really understand is that anything is permitted in the cause of jihad, right? So all those rules that you might assume just go out the window. And also, in those particular like folders, which you were there when we were reading it for like 13 hours on stream, like Kura, so you can back me up on this. They didn't really say that it was the Muslims who were drinking, right? They had drugs and they had the fucking alcohol, but they didn't seem like the Muslims themselves were the main consumers of the intoxicant by design. But, you know, I digress, right? Kun says, I'm not one for humiliation, I just glass the continent. Well, I mean, there are genuinely innocent people on the continent. There is a thing of proportionality, which means utterly destroy the people guilty, but also don't raise the innocent if at all possible.
Like, early levels, he kept making Donner Party jokes, and I was like, what is that? I am literally at 13 years old. What is that? So I looked it up, and I learned way early. Holy fuck.
Donner Party for 20. Donner Party for 20.
That game was actually, see, I see that and I'm like, damn. I actually do know a Jew that eats bacon. My point exactly, right? Like, pork is not kosher, but you know, you'll still find even people who are nominally religious Jews who will eat bacon, because again, not everyone follows the edicts of, actually most people don't really follow the edicts of their religion to a T. There's always that one rule that the person will make an exception for because they just don't want to follow that particular rule, right? Hopefully I didn't pronounce that word that way. Anyway, yeah, Gex the Gecko was really fun. Core fucking memory unlocked.
Patchouli, thank you. The only kebabs you trusted were made by a Turk and you knew that lived up the street from your aunt in Queens. Like, I passed away well over a decade ago, and you wouldn't trust him if you made him yourself. Good lord. Matt Larson, thank you. You picked a bad time to start eating. Well, as long as you're not eating the chopped up bodies of other humans, I think you're fine. I think you're pretty okay.
I don't understand how it is this thing where it's like, oh yes, this has ruined my appetite. It's like I've literally continued eating when people have thrown up next to me. Like, I don't get this sympathetic disgust response, to be perfectly honest. So, Kuro says, yes, I was. It's like, yes, I was. No, they weren't the ones doing the drinking. Exactly, right? It was like, oh, but there were so many leftists who were like, oh, yeah, well, Muslims don't drink. It's like, first of all, some of them do. They shouldn't by the edicts of their own religion, but that's neither here nor there, right? But, second of all, it's like, that's not what the report said. It just said they had alcohol and that they were using alcohol and drugs to make the girls like pliant. So it's like it's the total lack of reading comprehension again on the far left, which is ever more vexing and frustrating. And it takes sometimes a lot in me to not glow like the fucking sun and be ridiculously like just abrasive when people pull shit like that. Let's see. Keanu says, lucky at Cosmic, I gag at throw up. I mean, that's entirely fair. There's nothing wrong with having a sympathetic response, right? It's just your mirror neurons doing exactly what they're supposed to do. It's just, I'm not as there's a portion of that empathic response that just doesn't function in me, which is like, again, like if someone gets hurt, I'll like wince in pain. I might wince in pain or I might not, right? Although to be fair, I did just watch the fucking Brandon Herrera video on like the Darwin Awards where like 5 people accidentally killed themselves in that particular like list of Darwin Award videos, right? Including the guy who shot the Indian guy who shot himself in the heart. And it was like, what the fuck are you doing, you absolute retard? Or that guy who looked like he might have been a Slav, like pointing a gun at his forehead. Like, oh yeah, see, nothing's gonna... But then blows the back of his head off. You know, censored, obviously, because, you know, the guy's on YouTube and he has to censor these things. It was like, I don't exactly have a sympathetic response to the videos like that either. I grew up in the time of live leaks, so it's like, not exactly... Like, I don't have an immediate emotional response to that. Even though I'm like, damn, that's fucking ridiculous. It absolutely shouldn't have happened, right? But... you know, goodness is a choice, I guess, right? That's all I gotta say. Let me see. Kura said, ooh, I was Chernobyl when you were reading that. Well, you know, yeah. Dr. of Insanity says, I swear, officer, the alcohol isn't mine. It's the invisible mind wizard you can't see. I watch people be as stupid and have no response beyond calling them morons. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Alright, so the other one, hold on, there's one more in here that we might as well respond to because it is worth responding to. Oh, hold on, maybe I got the absolute correct time on this. Alright, so this one is going to be on hospitals in the US are advertising birth packages in Latin America. And I find this incredibly disgusting. This is, again, communist subversion. They're trying to flood, which is exactly what people have been talking about. They're trying to flood the United States with future voters to replace us. It's like people who actually have a connection to the country, right? Either by actually going through a actual naturalization process, you know, like Leaflet's ancestors did, or by actually being here at the foundation of a major section of the country. Like my ancestors were like participants at the Battle of the Alamo, right? Actually fought for the independence of Texas so Texas could one day be a part of America, right? Or the people who actually, you know, were brought here on ships, you know, as slaves. They have a root, a tie in, you know, to the land. Or again, the people who came here for religious liberty, right? And the 13 colonies, they have a tie to the land, right? But nah, these people who come in here and like are just born from magic soil are made into Americans. Absolutely fucking not. I absolutely do not agree with that. And we will read, not now, but we will be reading the Clarence Thomas dissent of the Supreme Court decision to see exactly what's going on. But, you know, that's for a later time. It's sad the birthright thing was shot down by the Supreme Court. It will be overturned. The Supreme Court does, you know, rulings aren't permanent. You have, for example, Roe v. Wade was overturned. You had the Korematsu case was overturned all the time because it turns out Supreme Court judges are like all other people in the government. They are politically motivated sometimes. And it turns out if you threaten someone's family, which seems to have been the case with some of the Supreme Court judges, you can potentially sway their vote and reasoning on a particular case, right? But here we go. Just disgusting behavior by hospitals.
After the Supreme Court ruling, apparently billboards have been going up, encouraging having people give birth in the U.S. Hospitals in the U.S. are advertising in Latin American countries offering birth packages of up to $5,000 to foreigners to help them give birth in border states like Texas.
They're literally advertising foreigners to come have anchor babies,
allowing their children to be born as U.S. citizens following the new SCOTUS ruling.
Yep, and when the SCOTUS eventually, assuming the country survives, right? But when SCOTUS actually gets around to eventually overturning this bullshit ruling, and it'll be overturned for the exact same reasons that, like, again, Korematsu and Roe v. Wade were overturned, which is they were completely fucking unconstitutional rulings. It will eventually get overturned. And all of these people, yeah, absolutely revoke their unjustly gained citizenship, because it turns out when you gain a citizenship under false pretenses or under rules that didn't actually apply, well, then that citizenship you got is fictitious, right? So then, yes, whenever that happens, as soon as it happens, fucking deport all of these people. But anyway, now let's see. Kun says, I'm only in favor of the Vietnamese, the rest can kick rocks. Possibly, right? Kionala says hospitals are a business too, despite what they are supposed to do. Well, I mean, they have to make money. We did have that entire video that I did where I ended up talking about how doctors lobbied to make your health insurance completely unaffordable. So, yeah, it is a business.
Wonderful! Now that it's no longer...
Hold on, at least the SCOTUS can take away protected citizenships of certain people. Yeah. Well, I mean, too, also, the United States could also just change the rules of citizenship.
ambiguous, they don't need to whisper about it, they can just plaster it on fucking billboards.
Yep.
Unfortunately for them, their billboard doesn't look as cool as mine, so my billboard's better. But
so yeah, look at that fucking website. It says havemybabyintexas.com. They're not even trying to hide it. It turns out they do actually want to replace you, right? The carbon that they wish to minimize is, in fact, you.
It's literally havemybabyintexas.com. How fucking ridiculous is that?
Yep.
Just to start.
So I don't think she actually reads the sign, so I'm going to actually read the sign. Not the Spanish side, but the translated side right here. At Mission, so it's a women's center at Mission Regional Medical Center. Birth packages in South Texas. Natural, $3,950. C-section, $5,525. Call for info at 001-956-519-2055. HaveMyBabyInTexas.com. At Mission Regional MC. That's an Instagram account. And then this looks like it. I don't see what the other one is. I can't actually see it, but it looks like it's almost certainly a Twitter account. So yeah, it's about as blatant as you could possibly get, right?
Carding everyone who tries going into a hospital that offers the birth packages, man. Mission Regional Medical Center. It would be a fucking religious hot medical center.
Yep. As much as I hate to say it, it turns out a lot of the communists back in the Cold War, they did a lot of effort to subvert as many religious organizations as they could by getting communist, actors into those organizations, especially in like the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches, right? But yeah, that same influence has ended up subverting a lot of the Protestant churches as well. So yeah, you see these allegedly religious, it's really politically, but allegedly religious charities and efforts that are actually just designed to fuck the United States, to be perfectly honest, right? Made in spite of the country, allegedly to serve God, right? Let's see. Kionel says, how much is giving birth? Well, it says natural is $3,950. So it's like they're offering that for the price of $3,950, the hospital will harbor you as a illegal, and then you could have your baby there, and boom, you have your anchor baby. Hello, Yanuka. So yeah, I don't like this whole magic soil thing with birthright citizenship in the United States, to be perfectly honest. You could look and actually read the auxiliary writings of the people who wrote I think it's the 14th Amendment, and like we're very clear that they're talking about political jurisdiction, right? They're not talking about territorial jurisdiction. They're talking about where the alliance of a man fundamentally belongs, right? And we know this because I think it was like, I don't remember what the guy's name is. I think it was like Yang. Let me check. But, let's see. Give me one moment. But, yeah, there was a subject of the Qing Empire who was born in the United States and petitioned to be, their parents petitioned that, hey, he was born in the U.S., he should apply as an American citizen, right? And the U.S. courts, Supreme Court said, no, that's not how that works. Dynasty, citizen. Okay, hopefully this will pull it up, because it turns out that like as much as people hate AI, it makes a great search engine. Oh, here it is. Found it. Immediately found it. I just couldn't remember the guy's fucking name. But yeah, it was US v. Wong Kim Ark in 1898. Now, the US Wong Kim Ark is... hold on. Let me open this up. Constitution Center. Might go into this just a bit, right? Because why the fuck not? We're already here. So, this is at constitutioncenter.org. Here is a brief summary. I might as well go into it. It's not going to be that long to actually read through this. So this is an example. And by the way, this is also why like Native Americans can be born on American soil and not necessarily be citizens. Because it turns out they're actually not American, because like the Native American tribes, right, are domestic dependent nations. They are not America. They are nations separate from America, but which America, you know, allegedly takes care of. That's actually how the Constitution sets that up. So if you ever wonder why sometimes American and Native Americans aren't necessarily citizens, just even though they're born on American soil, that's why, because they're under a distinct jurisdiction from the, again, U.S. citizen. Just like, again, Wong Kim Ark was actually denied citizenship despite being born on American soil because of this exact issue of political jurisdiction. Let's see. Boo Huckley says communism equals feudal enough. Kielnala says, I mean, for native. Boo Huckley says squeaky chair. That's actually my desk, not my chair. Let's see. So, ratified in 1868, the 14th Amendment opens with the Citizenship Clause. It reads, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So this is a clause connected here. It's not just born or naturalized. There's an and here, not an or, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside, right? The Supreme Court addressed the meaning of this key provision in United States versus Wong Kim Ark. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco to parents who were both Chinese citizens. It was the Qing dynasty at this point, to be perfectly honest. The Qing was still around. At age 21, he took a trip to China to visit his parents. When he returned to the United States, he was denied entry on the grounds that he was not a U.S. citizen. In a 6-2 decision, the court ruled in favor of Wong Kim Ark because he was born in the United States. Wait. I might be misremembering this case. He was born in the United States. Oh, okay. Okay, I see what's going on. Hold on. What the fuck am I remembering then? Because it's not Wong Kim Ark then. I'm remembering someone totally different. Give me one moment. We're going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, it seems. Why am I sitting on my desk? No, it's just my arms moving the desk. It's a very light metal desk. Okay. Hold on. Interesting. Oh, okay. It changed the channel name. That's why. Let's see. Okay. Hold on. Yeah, I might be slightly misremembering this. Okay. So I'm about to get myself corrected. Right? This is how you know this is how you know I am a VTuber of integrity. When I'm wrong, I will admit it. And it seems that I was misremembering very severely this particular issue. So let's get someone who actually to correct me.
Yet the term subject to the jurisdiction, it's almost here, right? It's I haven't actually thought of this before or seen it discussed, but we have a modern use of the word subject in this context, right? Like subject to penalty, subject to an upgrade on a flight, subject meaning kind of susceptible to. It could be applied to you, right? Subject to the jurisdiction. But I find the use of the word subject here interesting because it may have had a broader etymological context at the time of the 14th Amendment. I mean, what else? What's another application of the word subject, right? It's as a subject of a sovereign, right? You're a subject of the King of England. You're a subject of the government of the United States. Subject to the jurisdiction would seem to combine both of those concepts. The focus on allegiance.
I mean, I always thought that was the plain text reading of it. Kun says, Kun, not Kun, says, holy crap, the way your keystrokes reverberate through my bone conduction. Right, fair enough.
Continued in the years immediately after the 14th Amendment was ratified. Post-ratification understanding of scholars and the Supreme Court. In the years immediately after the ratification of the 14th Amendment, scholars in this court viewed the jurisdiction clause as extending well beyond children of ambassadors and foreign soldiers, confirming the view that jurisdiction was a term of art referring to a specific type of relationship between the individual and the sovereign.
I mean, yeah, that's an entirely decent point too, right? Is that, like, if that's the case, then the children of ambassadors would also be, if they were born on the United States soil, then United States citizens, right? And at the same time, it's like, or diplomats. At the same time, if the ruling, again, that, like, if you're born on American soil, then you're an American citizen, would be like, okay, hypothetically speaking, right? Let's say there's an invasion in, just immediately an invasion from Mexico, right? Let's say China, like, sent all of its troops, completely forgot Taiwan, just sent everyone to Mexico that was in their military, and then invaded from the south, right? And then took a substantial portion of, let's say, the lower United States for a brief time, right? Any Mexican, any children of those soldiers born, like, completely, you know, on U.S. soil would then therefore just be American citizens, right? Even though those children are subject to the, again, government of China, not the government of the United States. So again, this is why it's often regarded, this idea of birth citizenship is regarded as like magic soil doctrine, because it's like there's no substantial difference or change in the quality of the individual per se. It's just due to the magic power of the soil, you are now like Alakazam, hullabaloo, American citizen, you too, eh? Yeah.
By 1872, just 4 years after ratification, the Supreme Court noted that the phrase subject to the jurisdiction was intended to exclude from its operation children of ministers, consuls, and citizens or subjects of foreign states born within the U.S.
Yeah.
It's the slaughterhouse cases, very famous cases.
Like, I'm gonna have to remember this because I'm gonna have to probably go into that at some point, because like I definitely misremembered some of this information.
School type of case. To be sure, this was likely dicta, meaning not essential to the legal finding in slaughterhouse and therefore not controlling legal precedent, but it reflected the contemporaneous understanding that the jurisdiction clause was not a narrow exception solely for ministers, consuls, and invading soldiers, but applied also to children whose parents remained citizens of another country.
Yep.
All of these groups had one thing in common: they lacked total allegiance to the U.S.
Yeah, it's like if your parent, if you had like a dad who like the husband being like an American citizen, and then the wife is like a citizen of like another country that allows dual citizenship, right? Just fucking hypothetically take one, right? Then yeah, it would make sense that child would still be a citizen of the United States, right? Because they are under the jurisdiction of the United States by virtue of their father, right? But like again. Just because like you were born on the soil, you're still under the jurisdiction of your parents, who are themselves under the jurisdiction of their own home country, right? The place that they actually have citizenship to. They're not under the jurisdiction except for temporarily and like geographically of the United States. Their actual political and their political allegiance goes back to their own country, not to the U.S. And yeah, this is why, again, like sometimes understanding the original idea behind these things will help you understand the reason it's written that way. Because oftentimes, especially like in older dialects of English, things will be written slightly differently than the way that we would write them, and then this can sometimes trip us up and when we're reading them. But the whole point of originalism is to go back to the original reading of the text, right, as it is actually written. Not in the way that we reinterpret it through the evolution of language over time. That's one of the ways that the living document doctrine gets through. Is like, oh yeah, the language itself changes over time. No, yes, it does, but this law wasn't written in 2026. This law was written, like generations ago. That's why, then we need to understand it from that perspective.
1 year later, the U.S. Attorney General, who had been a senator during the debates over the 14th Amendment, issued a formal opinion explaining that the word jurisdiction must be understood to mean absolute or complete jurisdiction, such as the United States had over its citizens before the adoption of this amendment. Aliens, among whom are persons born here and naturalized abroad, dwelling or being in this country, are subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. only to a limited extent.
Yeah, in the sense that, like, again, the laws apply here that they have to obey, right?
Political and military rights and duties do not pertain to them.
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? It's like, okay, for all these anchor babies, in the event of a war, are they actually going to be subject to conscription? Right? Because, like, especially like American men, the male citizenry of the United States is subject to conscription in during an act of war if conscription is actually enacted. So, are we going to expect these children of these Mexicans and Guatemalans and Colombians that are just anchor babies to be drafted into the U.S. military in a hypothetical war between, let's say, Super China and like future America, right? Are we really gonna expect that to happen, right?
Again, note the two different forms of jurisdiction: criminal and political. The next year, the House of Representatives, so this is now 1874, issued a report stating that the United States have not recognized a double allegiance, dual citizenship. By our law, a citizen is bound to be true and faithful alone to our government. So that used to be the law. Could be again. This again equates.
There are benefits, there are obvious benefits to like single citizenship, as a standard. But yeah, it makes sense to me, at least.
Citizenship with the concept of total allegiance, not merely partial allegiance, nor partial authority by the sovereign over that individual. In 1881, a treatise on citizenship by Alexander Porter Morse adopted the Attorney General's 1873 view, reiterating that aliens, among whom are persons born here and naturalized abroad, dwelling or being in this country, are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States only to a limited extent, and thus their children would not be citizens. Contemporary scholars further confirmed that jurisdiction had two meanings, one limited and one more complete. In Treatise, 1881, Treatise on the Conflict of Laws, recognized that in one sense, a child born in the U.S. is necessarily subject to its jurisdiction in the simple sense that all foreigners are bound to a local allegiance to the state in which they sojourn, at least allegiance to its criminal laws.
Yeah.
But the term subject to the jurisdiction.
And by the way, you notice the thing that we talked about with the whole Islamic migration stuff, right? It's like, oh yeah, certain groups don't even respect an allegiance to, again, the what was the thing? What was the term that they just said? Allegiance to the state in which they sojourn, right? Like, not even local allegiance. So it's like, interesting. Maybe that's an argument for limiting the migration of certain cultures that actively despise like, the lands that they're migrating to. Dr. of Insanity says, I don't even expect women of this nation to join the fight, let alone them, right?
It's almost here, right? It's I haven't actually thought of this before or seen it discussed, but we have a modern use of the word subject in this context, right? Like subject to penalty, subject to an upgrade on a flight.
Foreign enough,
subject
yeah.
Meaning kind of susceptible to. It could be applied to you, right? Subject to the jurisdiction. But I find the use of the word subject here interesting because it may have had a broader etymological context at the time of the 14th Amendment. I mean, what's another application of the word subject, right? It's as a subject of a sovereign, right? You're a subject of the King of England, you're a subject of the government of the United States. Subject to the jurisdiction would seem to combine both of those concepts.
Now, I suspect he's right about this particular subject, and I suspect that if we actually did a deep dive into the relevant literature, which would be more of an Ava Elfpire conversation, honestly, actually, if someone would pose some of these questions to Ava, that actually would be an interesting thing. I might actually pose some of these questions to her, but it would be interesting to get their input, because, you know, they are actually a lawyer.
The children born abroad to American citizens are regarded as citizens of the U.S. The children used in international subject to the jurisdiction.
Okay, I accidentally hit a wrong button.
Must be construed in the sense in which the term is used in international law as accepted by the U.S. as well as in Europe. And by this law, the children born abroad to American citizens are regarded as citizens of the U.S. with the right on reaching full age to elect one allegiance and repudiate the other. Such election being final.
Yeah, so basically this is a standard of, again, single citizenship, which is, by the way Japan works, right? I did know of someone who actually has an illegal dual citizenship between the United States and Japan. It's not illegal on the U.S. side, it's illegal on Japan's side, right? And it's just, no one ever really enforced that particular rule. And it's like, yeah, I mean, fair enough. But this is the way most of the world works, right? Is you have one citizenship. And the reason why is because it kind of locks you into that particular civilizational project, right? So yeah, at this time when this, at the time of this commentary and this explanation, this time period, the dual citizenship was not a concept in the minds of the people writing the laws, or even the constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment that we're talking about. So again, it's like, what the fuck are we talking about? About like birthright citizenship being connected to the soil when it's very clearly in context connected to the political jurisdiction that the person belongs to.
The same conditions apply to children born of foreigners in the U.S. And it needs to be final. Right, the selection, because a particular crime that sovereign states are concerned about is what? Is treason. But treason is only treason if it's committed by a citizen. If it's committed by...
How the hell do they swing that U.S.-Japanese citizenship? They didn't. They just don't talk about it. The rare occasions it does pop up, it's just someone notices the oddity, and then nothing ever happens about it. It is literally just falling through the cracks. Happens a lot more often than people think it does.
A foreign national, it may be some other crime, but it's not treason. Treason is, an offense against one's own nation. George Collins, who was later appointed amicus in the Wong Kim Ark Chinese national case, explained in 1884 that the phrase "subject to the jurisdiction thereof" does not mean territorial jurisdiction.
Oh, if you mean how did they fall into that issue, they're a hafu. That's why. That's how. So one of their parents is a Japanese citizen, the other parent is an American citizen.
But it means national jurisdiction, that it is the jurisdiction which a nation possesses over those who are its citizens or subject as such. In 1884, this case this court, Supreme Court, decided Elk v. Wilkins, I mentioned that earlier, which held that Indians were not citizens under the 14th Amendment because they owed allegiance to their tribes.
Which, by the way, tribes are defined, the tribes per se of the American Indian, right, are defined, again, as a domestic dependent nation. They are not the same nation as the United States, but they are a domestic and dependent nation, right? So they're not completely separate, but they're not also completely joined to the American project. Let's see. Kun says, look, I'm Asian, I can say this. We're anal as hell about that kind of shit. Yeah, but you also have to remember that Japan is a harmony, centered culture, right? Wa is their principle, right? So, they definitely do sometimes just let things slide just because they're conflict averse.
Supreme Court held that the evident meaning of the jurisdiction clause was that a person was not merely subject in some respect or degree to the jurisdiction of the U.S., but completely subject to their political jurisdiction and owing them direct and immediate allegiance. Moving beyond the context of Indians, the Supreme Court explained that the 14th Amendment would confer citizenship only on those children whose parents are owing no allegiance to any alien power. But an immigrant...
And actually, hold on, that brings me back here, because if we read this right here, the justification here was because he was born in the United States and his parents were not employed in any diplomatic or official capacity under the Emperor of China, right? Citizenship clause, the 14th Amendment. Oh, okay, this is a case highlighted disagreement between justices over meaning of the control phrase, subject and jurisdiction thereof. So this seems to be one of the areas where the courts started to swing in the opposite direction. So yeah, this is an important case, but I seem to have gotten it the opposite reason for why it was important.
From any foreign state cannot become a citizen of the United States without a formal renunciation.
Yep, let the sleeping dogs lay policy.
Acceptance by the United States of that renunciation through such form of naturalization as may be required by law. Again, note the concepts of total allegiance by the individual and an acceptance by the United States. Two-way street. Jurisdiction and the jurisdiction clause invoked that reciprocal relationship. In lectures posthumously published in 1891, Supreme Court Justice Samuel Miller explained the jurisdiction clause extended beyond mere ambassadors. If a stranger or traveler passing through or temporarily residing in this country who has not himself been naturalized and who claims no allegiance to our government has a child born here which goes out of the country, which is with its father, such child is not a citizen of the United States because it was not subject to its jurisdiction.
That seems like an interesting little, again, explanation of that particular. Again, I'll reread this myself, right? So, here it is. Samuel Miller likewise explained the jurisdiction clause extended beyond mere ambassadors. If a stranger or traveler passing through or temporarily residing in this country who has not himself been naturalized and who claims to owe no allegiance to our government has a child born here which goes out of the country with its father, such a child is not a citizen of the United States because it was not subject to its jurisdiction. This sounds to me a very solid repudiation of the idea that, again, of birth tourism, right? Sounds to me like a very solid repudiation of the idea that the children of illegal immigrants are somehow American citizens if they're born on the side of the U.S. side of the border, right? Like, just, it seems pretty obvious to me, but apparently people disagree.
So that's the Wong Kim Ark case. Given this body of evidence, modern scholars have recognized that there was a significant agreement among contemporary legal scholars and executive branch officials during the same time, including secretaries of state, that the jurisdiction clause invoked the concept of total allegiance to the United States.
So you got to remember, like, the reason why the 14th Amendment exists is because, again, when the slaves were freed, they didn't exactly have any place to go. They didn't have any ties. They weren't subject to any African nation, right? Even though there was a movement of a back to Africa movement, right? they didn't have any. They weren't subjects to an African nation. They were still subjects to the United States, though. So it's like, all right, if they're going to be subject to the political jurisdiction of the United States, we might as well make them citizens, right?
As long as the parents remain citizens of a foreign country, their children born in the United States could not be U.S. citizens. And that was especially clear where the parents' home country would confer citizenship on those children, so they're not stateless, meaning they were subject to their parents' home country even at the time of birth. They were not stateless like the freed slaves were stateless.
Exactly, right? The freed slaves didn't exactly have a place to return to. But most of these illegal immigrants with their children, they do have a place they can return to. They just don't want to return to it.
14th Amendment was for. That explains why such children themselves had, at the best, divided loyalty. They were claimed as subjects by their parents' home country, meaning they could not owe total allegiance to the U.S.
I mean, yeah, the obvious logic here is like, if there's a conflict between country A and country B, then you happen to be a citizen of both countries. To whom do you owe allegiance if there's a conflict between these two countries, right? And Leaflet has pointed this out before, right? Now, there is a way to thread this needle, which is to say that, like, if you have competing interests in, like, two different things that both you owe an allegiance to, the reasonable solution is to take a step back and refrain from involving yourself at all in it, too, right? But at the same time, the whole point of like citizenship, right, and your voting rights is tied to your ability to be conscripted. So that's not exactly a negotiating point when it comes to, again, citizenship, dual citizenship in the United States. There is a decent argument to be made that maybe the U.S. should not allow dual citizenship. But, you know, that's an ongoing debate. Let's see. Kun says, I would have just said anyone owned by a U.S. citizen as a slave was given citizenship after the abolition. A lot cleaner. Possibly. I'd have to think about that, right? But you know, we can talk about like what if, like what, you know, like what if scenarios all the time, right? Which is what we're talking about, a counterfactual, right? Like ultimately, that point boils down to what if it was this case? That would have streamlined this whole thing and avoided a lot of this mess. And it's like, yeah, that would have been true, but also a lot of what we're going through right now would have been completely inconceivable to the people who wrote the 14th Amendment in the first place, which is why it wasn't written that way.
Oh, and we get Wong Kim Ark. Plaintiffs, the people who want the universal birthright citizenship,
which is evil,
unelected, black-robed, tyrannical, inferior district trial courts below chiefly relied on this Supreme Court's decision in U.S. v. Wong Kim Ark, 1898, but the reliance is misplaced because the Supreme Court, tied allegiance to whether the U.S. had permitted or consented to the parents being permanently present in the U.S. at the time of their child's birth. Illegal aliens, by definition, are not present with the consent of the U.S., and accordingly, it makes little sense to argue that Wong Kim Ark dictates citizenship for their children.
Yeah, so even if you're going to try to leverage that to make your case, it's a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. It is substantially saying something totally different than what you're trying to leverage it to say.
Wong Kim Ark involved a person who was born in the United States to alien parents who at the time of the child's birth enjoyed a permanent domicile and residence in the U.S. with the sovereign's permission, our national permission. The Supreme Court held that such a child becomes at the time of his birth a citizenship of the United States. Invoking the...
That doesn't make any sense to me, again, because then it's like, why aren't the children of like American Indians automatically citizens then? Like, again, this falls apart almost immediately upon even close inspection.
Old concept of allegiance, the Supreme Court held that foreigners present in the U.S. are entitled to the protection of and owe allegiance to the U.S. so long as they are permitted by the United States to reside here. Continuing with the theme of sovereign consent as an aspect of allegiance, the Supreme Court held it was incontrovertible that the jurisdiction of every nation within its own territory is exclusive and absolute, and may only be qualified by the consent, express or implied, of the sovereign. That traced or followed, aligned with Chief Justice Marshall's opinion in the Schooner Exchange, which addressed the rights of Americans whose ship had been seized at sea by Napoleon's agents and then sailed into Philadelphia under a French flag. Echoing language later found in the 14th Amendment, the Supreme Court held that the jurisdiction of the nation within its own territory is necessarily exclusive and absolute, and thus all exceptions to it must be traced up to the consent of the nation itself. Birthright citizenship could not be gained by the sovereign, from the sovereign, by those present in defiance of its laws.
I think that's a fair point too, right? Even if you were going to allow that, right? We're just talking again the 14th Amendment. It would make sense that again, if you're here in defiance of the very laws of the country, and then you pump out a baby, it's like, yeah, no, that should not work that way. It should not work that you get the benefits of citizenship by trying to exploit a loophole which only exists because of bad actors intentionally misreading the Constitution in the first place, right?
I see we got a handful of super chats. Let me see how far I have to go to the next section. Not very far. Let me finish this out, and then we'll pause this and I'll hit the super chats. Wong Kim Ark concluded that foreigners owe the requisite allegiance when the United States permits them to be here permanently, permanent residents. One need not decide whether Wong Kim Ark was...
But you got to pay attention to that word, permits, right? They actually give an active permission to be here.
fully correct on that score. I believe it was not, because the test it imposes still resolves the question here, because Trump's executive order does the same thing. It allows citizenship for children born to permanent resident aliens. By definition, illegal aliens do not have consent to be here.
Yep.
Are not permitted to reside here, nor have they been given permanent domicile and residence in the U.S.
Yeah, and in fact, the permanent domiciles are stolen, to be perfectly honest, right? That domicile could have gone to an American citizen. So if they are existing in a domicile, then they are actively taking away from the American citizen.
As were the parents, Chinese national parents of Wong Kim Ark. The executive order at issue here notably excludes children of lawful permanent residents, so they continue to get birthright citizenship, which is the modern equivalent to the parents in Wong Kim Ark. The Supreme Court's opinion in Wong Kim Ark extends no further. It grants birthright citizenship. The executive order and Wong Kim Ark both grant birthright citizenship to children born on American soil to American parents and children born on American soil to permanent resident aliens. That's
Yeah. Good night, Kionella. Make sure to get some good sleep.
the proper understanding of the current law. I think Wong Kim Ark should be reversed because I think it made something up.
Yeah, again, I totally misremembered this entire case, if this is the case. And I mean, to be fair, people misremember shit all the time. I'm just willing to admit that, like, nah, I completely fucked this up. But yeah, given all this context, yeah, I think it would be safe to assume that, yeah, it's probably one of those things that will eventually be overturned when someone with common sense actually gets into the courts. Again, just like Roe v. Wade lasted for way too long than it should have, and then someone noticed, hey, they kind of just made this up wholesale out of, like, fucking nothing, and then just overturned it because, again, it was bad case law. Very obviously bad case law. There needs to be some kind of mechanism by which the Supreme Court can be reined in when they're very clearly doing something stupid that they're not supposed to be doing, right? As much as I hate Andrew Jackson as a president, you gotta admit the balls of stating, the Supreme Court has made their decision, let them enforce it, right?
And the courts are not supposed to make up law. The 14th Amendment doesn't say it applies to permanent resident aliens.
Nope.
So I don't see the authority that the Supreme Court... Remember, only Congress can grant the terms of citizenship. Supreme Court can't do it. But even if you think Wong Kim Ark is correctly decided, Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship aligns with it perfectly. The universal birthrights rely on a few broad statements in Wong Kim Ark, but ironically, the opinion itself cautioned against relying on such statements. Quote, it is a
Oh my God.
not to be disregarded that general expressions in every opinion are to be taken in connection with the case in which those expressions are used. If they go beyond the facts of the case, they may be respected, but ought not control the judgment in a subsequent suit when the very point is presented for decision. So this is referring to a concept we now call dicta. Dicta is
Dr. Sanders says, dare I say, return to tar and feathering our bad representatives. I think, I don't dislike the suggestion.
a passing phrase in a court decision that is not material to the legal question in the case. This happens all the time. There'll be a specific
Obviously, it happens all the time.
And the court will write about that question, and then the court just meanders and talks about other things that are not material to the legal question before it. That is not controlling legal precedents. It doesn't have controlling legal authority. The stuff that is material.
Yeah, so basically reading a court document, like a judge's rulings, is kind of similar to reading like a papal bull, right? Or like the writings of like a patriarch or a pope, right? It's like, okay, some of this is going to be completely fucking like just dicta in the sense of like, okay, none of this is actually relevant to the fucking conversation at hand, right? And then you will find specific passages where it's like, oh no, wait, this is actually morally binding. And like you could tell the difference between the two because they're structurally different, and also whether or not they're even on topic. And yeah, so you have the same thing here. It's like judges are human beings. Sometimes they trail off into things that don't make any sense, and then it's just when that happens, it's like, well, I mean, it's part of the record, but it's not actually materially relevant to, or even logically relevant to the question at hand, right? It's just a documentation of the facts at that point. It doesn't actually weigh one way or the other on the outcome of the conversation.
To the legal question in dispute does have precedential value and is binding in other courts. But the stuff that is just passing remarks does not. And the thinking is that if an issue is material to the legal question being disputed, it's being very rigorously thought about and fought over. So it's being rigorously tested. A passing remark that's not material to the case, everyone's like, who cares? Why bother challenging that? It doesn't matter in this case. That's dicta, and that has no precedential value. Continuing here, accordingly, until recently, circuit courts across the country had long read Wong Kim Ark narrowly.
Which is the correct way to read this. If you are going to give Wong Kim Ark, it's like and they're very clearly wrong decision. It's like, if you could actually use that, it's like, yeah, you'd have to interpret that narrowly, because if you interpret that broadly, you basically gut the entire system.
In light of its specific facts, narrowly applying to permanent resident aliens. One final note, Justice John Marshall Harlan, the patron of interpreting the Constitution as colorblind, and the sole dissenter in Plessy v. Ferguson, the since overturned Supreme Court decision that held that slaves could not be American citizens. Harlan dissented from that, joined Chief Justice Fuller's dissent in Wong Kim Ark, arguing that Wong never became and is not a citizen of the United States. That is, to my mind, folks, the correct decision. I wonder what the voting was on Wong Kim Ark. I actually don't remember. 6-2. 6-2. So a super majority. Not somebody must have recused because they don't have 9 votes there. Or maybe somebody was dead. Who knows? But there were 2 dissenters, Marshall Harlan and Chief Justice Fuller. Clearly,
yeah. Just remember that, like, again, Supreme Court judges are also human beings too. They have their own political agendas, and they will absolutely, from time to time, just decide to rule the way they want things to go instead of the way things are actually written. It does happen.
Justice Harlan viewed that position as fully consistent with our nation's commitment to equal protection. In other words, that the 14th Amendment applied to those born on American soil, to American citizens, and the freed black slaves, but not to anybody else. Not to anybody else.
So yeah, apparently I was wrong about that. But let's get back to this and finish this, and then that will probably be the end of this.
So unlucky, now we have fucking let's go have American babies birth tourism just blowing out of megaphones instead of whispered in secret.
Yep.
I hate to see it.
Oh, okay. We were fucking done with that. Fair enough. But yeah, no, I hate it too, Kirsha. I hate the fact that, again, it's like, again, we operate under a mystical framework instead of a rational framework nowadays, right? It's like... the magic soil. I don't believe in magic soil. I hate that I have to abide by magic soil logic. I do not care for the shaman as he dances with the shotgun in hand. He does not bring the rain. He does not bring the rain. That's all I gotta say. The shaman does not bring the rain. The, tyrannical black-robed judges do not define reality. They just... they're supposed to determine law in context, but as we see recently, that's not always the case. Right? Alright, I'm timing you out. Alright, here we go. Let us raid. Okay, who is... Ooh, Rev is... Kitsuragi's on. Like, immediately the first person that pops up is Kitsuragi. Lusty Lynx is on too. Set 5 fucking hours. What the hell is wrong with Lynx? Oh. Alright. Okay, definitely not her, because that's like 7 fucking hours. We're going with Kitsuragi. Alrighty then. We're gonna go here. Click. So if anyone wants to follow, we have Kitsuragi's Twitch in chat right now. And I am about to find out if they have, let's see. So let me open this up and check to see if they have a YouTube account. I don't know if they do. I think they have one, but it's just not coming up to my brain. Go to about. Here we go. See if they're actually streaming right now on YouTube. I think they are. Yep, they're streaming right now on YouTube. So there we go. If you want to join on YouTube, there they are. And then finally, let's check on Kick, because I'm pretty sure they stream on Kick as well. Let's see. Kitsuragi. And they are. So let's put that into the thing. So if you want to follow on Kick, there we go. So we are rating very shortly. Alright, y'all have a lovely day, and I am going to go get a snack. Alright,